What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and I will be the first to admit that I have a cold, so I do sound strange, but I probably have a cold because I've spent the majority of my free time traversing the Arctic/geothermic wilderness of Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I have to say that I don't normally talk about a game in particular or make game recommendations because I do believe that everyone should play whatever they really want. But Rise of the Tomb Raider, it's gotten so little publicity and it's been so overlooked by a lot of outlets that I have to take the time to talk about this game. So first off, a lot of people wonder if they have to play the first Tomb Raider reboot, so to speak, to get the gist of Rise of the Tomb Raider, because of course Tomb Raider Definitive Edition was released on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One a couple of years ago. It was a free Games with Gold late last year, and that's where I actually played it from. But you do not really need to play the first reboot to really get the gist of Rise of the Tomb Raider, because this one does give enough background information to get you going with the story and get you emotionally involved without you having to put all those hours into the first game. However, I will say that if you play the first Tomb Raider, you are going to have a little bit more background information when it comes to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and there are a couple of tips of the hat to the first game that Crystal Dynamics made a couple of years ago throughout the entire story. So if you did play that, you're definitely going to have a leg up in the experience side of things. And of course you are going to have more background to this kind of Lara Croft, what her life entails, who some of the characters in this story actually are. And so it's always good to just play the first game, and it was an incredible experience. I would give it probably at least a 9 out of 10 for the first game. So if you haven't played that one, you can probably get it pretty cheap nowadays, maybe around 12 bucks or so, and it's definitely worth the experience. So the idea behind this game is that you and your friend, I can't really tell what the relationship is. It seems like there's some kind of romance going on. I'm not really sure, but I would love to see that kind of explored in the next game. It kind of has like a Nathan Drake and his girlfriend kind of thing going on. But they're exploring this kind of mountainous region that has a lot of snow and ice, and they're climbing this giant glacier, as Lara Croft pronounces it. But they come across this city, and they are in search of the source, which is pretty much just a source of eternal life that whoever looks at it will be able to live forever. And that's the basic gist of the game. But as you get to the city, you find these people, the organization by the name of Trinity, that is also going after the source so that they can pretty much just take over the world. And they're supposed to be able to help millions of people, but in the end they're just wanting the power, which is one initial power struggle, and then you come across some native people, and the story kind of progresses from there. Now, as far as gameplay goes, I really do like the way that they handled the weapons, because there are different types of weapons, and there are a couple of sub-weapons within each class, but they aren't really that extensive, because at the end of the day, you don't really need that many weapons for this kind of game. You've got shotguns, you've got the assault/submachine gun slot, you've got bows and arrows, you have handguns, and there are a couple variants of each kind of weapon, but at the end of the day they all do a similar kind of thing, and they're all really just great ways to take out the enemy. Now, one way that Crystal Dynamics did change up the gameplay is that there's different kinds of ammo that you can use for certain kinds of guns. For instance, the shotguns actually have a Dragon's Breath round, which will actually shoot flaming pellets instead of just your regular shotgun blast. There are different kinds of arrows that you can use, some that can be used later on to traverse the environment, and I think that creates for a pretty awesome gameplay experience. But I found myself using the explosive arrows a lot, I found myself using the fire arrows a lot. Not so much the gas ones, but they are useful, and you can use these kinds of weapons to interact with pieces and objects in the environment in kind of unique ways that you might not initially expect. Of course, the idea for most of these kinds of games, these action-adventure games, is that there has to be some kind of element of puzzle solving. We see this in Uncharted as well, which is pretty much the direct competitor to the Tomb Raider franchise. But what these do really well, what the puzzles in this game do fairly well, is that they actually had me puzzled for probably about 5 to 10 minutes, some of them. Obviously, a lot of them were very obvious, because I did play the game on just standard Tomb Raider difficulty. It's the normal version, so to speak. But there were some where I was very puzzled, and that's something that I don't come across very often, because it seems like the majority of game developers these days are looking to have a somewhat challenging experience, but at the end of the day they don't want the player to get frustrated and give up on the game, because this game Although it is a big title like Tomb Raider, not a lot of people played the new Tomb Raider, and so they're still trying to chase after a player division that is very loyal to this franchise. And so to scare off anyone that might be wanting to play the game because they hear that it's challenging would just be a terrible business move. Now, going back to the story just one more time, the end of the story actually surprised me. I didn't expect it to end the way that it did, and it was a very pleasing story, and I'm not going to go that deeply into it. I'm not going to give away the ending or anything. This is a spoiler-free discussion. But the last 2 hours of the game have a lot of twists and turns that I didn't really expect. And for the most part, I can pretty much predict how the game is going to end 99% of the time when I'm playing it. Game developers these days and those that write games, it seems like they're going more for gameplay, more for graphic fidelity, and not so much for having a compelling story that actually does surprise the person playing the game. And that's something that Crystal Dynamics did extremely well with Rise of the Tomb Raider, is that although I thought I knew how it was going to go, and I thought I knew how it was going to end initially, there were a couple of twists along the way that really took me aback. Now, as far as additional features go, like co-op and multiplayer that we see in games like Uncharted, Tomb Raider and the other definitive edition of the first Tomb Raider game completely leave that out. There is no co-op or multiplayer in this game, which I thought was a pretty awesome move. Because this is a very single-player kind of experience. I don't need a person helping me through these levels. The idea is to be able to use your resources to craft new kinds of ammo and to figure out how to traverse the environment and take out the enemy and find what you are looking for all on your own with using your own wit and, intuition. And that's what Tomb Raider is all about for me, and Rise of the Tomb Raider does that extremely well by leaving co-op and multiplayer out of the game entirely. Now, you might have heard that there are some microtransactions in the game, and that there are, but they don't affect the story whatsoever. You can pretty much just buy card packs that slightly affect how you play the game, but that doesn't really take advantage or take effect until after you finish the story initially. I didn't even discover that there were any kinds of card packs until after I had finished the story, after the credits had rolled, and I was kind of just searching for other stuff to do in the game. So it's nice to see that Crystal Dynamics gave players the option to purchase these card packs and go back and play through the game in a different kind of way, but it's nice to see that they didn't force it on anyone that didn't really want it. Now, as far as replayability goes, I could totally see myself playing through certain missions once or twice more, and this is definitely an achievement hunter kind of game. I could totally see myself going back and playing through this at least, like I said, once or twice more, just because of the different ways you can play it. You can apply these cards that you can earn through points in the game. You can go back and unlock all of the weapons. I still haven't unlocked all of the weapons, so that just goes to show there's still plenty to do in the game and still plenty to see. I'm really excited about going back and unlocking a bolt-action rifle that I didn't actually have the opportunity to play with my first time through. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that I am making this video to say that it is a travesty that Rise of the Tomb Raider didn't get more publicity whenever it was released last year, because this is one of the best games from 2015, and had I played it before I gave you my best games list, I probably would have made this my game of the year. Just because of the different ways that it did right by the gaming industry. It did so many things right that a lot of people get wrong most of the time, and that's something that makes me excited to see what Rise of the Tomb Raider and what the other Tomb Raider games have going forward. So as you can see, I'm playing it on the Xbox One, but it did also come out on the Xbox 360, so if you have either of those consoles, I have to recommend that you go out and get this one as soon as you can, as soon as you are financially able, because it is a game you absolutely have to play. If you're on PC, it was released earlier this month, or it is coming out. It's in January on Steam and other PC outlets, I'm assuming, but if you are on the PlayStation consoles, the game is coming out later this year, probably sometime around November. So if you are on PlayStation and you don't have a PC or an Xbox One, you should definitely put this on your games to play in 2016, because I absolutely love Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I can't recommend it to you enough. So there you guys have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, drop me a like down below and comment and tell me what you think about Rise of the Tomb Raider or Tomb Raider in general. Do you think Crystal Dynamics is doing the franchise justice? Do you like the original Tomb Raider games? What do you wish was different about this game? Let me know in the comments section down below. And if you are new to the channel or you've never seen any of my other content, I do upload new stuff like 3 or 4 days a week depending on the week, so there's always something new right here on the channel when you drop by to watch some videos. And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this particular video. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.